I am so sorry.
Jack Quaid is back with another action film that lands him with weird powers that results from a disease in Novocaine. This time around, he's a man who feels no pain, but eventually he ends up feeling the pain of heartbreak when he's betrayed. But it all happens too soon, and thus we have a film that gives us an amazing exploration of an individual suffering from a nerve-related disease and how they deal with it in their everyday life. Imagine Hughie with a disease where he can't feel the pain, and he can't really fight but wants to save the love of his life. That's Novocaine. Let's go into the ending of the film and explore the lead character of Nathan Caine from the film. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Ending explained. The twist that finally hurt. Even though the entire film was filled with multiple bones breaking and things being shattered, nothing came out as prominent as the final twist, which made Nathan Caine feel some pain. After the bank heist, which Simon manages to succeed in along with his friends, they take Sherry as a hostage. And ever since then, the entire plot of the film starts working out. If it weren't for Sherry being taken hostage, we wouldn't have seen the crime-fighting days of Nathan Caine in action. But right when we get back to the kidnapped state of Sherry, while Nathan Caine fights around to put down individuals one after the other to reach her, we do get to witness some surprising moments that indicate that Sherry was a part of the bank heist. The way they didn't tie up her hands during the heist, while doing the same for the others, shows that she's in on the plan from the beginning. This was something a Reddit user suggested when the trailer for the movie was first released. While this was a bit surprising, the real gut punch was delivered when it was revealed in front of Nate that the entire love affair was part of a plan. In fact, she was supposed to get the code from him during their interaction on the date, but she ended up falling in love with him and decided not to stick to that version of the plan after all. Even though it becomes clear that Sherry can't be trusted anymore, her continuous attempts to justify herself to Nate might have proven otherwise. So Sherry does seem to have some semblance of morals from the start. In fact, she was clearly offended by the idea that Sam went ahead and killed someone during the heist. One of her conditions to be involved in it required that they didn't kill anyone. The dots about the entire ordeal actually connect when we realize that she was overtly curious about Nate's odd behavior at the workplace and other such things about him. In fact, she kept asking questions during their lunch break, and he managed to give some really interesting responses. Finally, he ended up telling her about his CIPA, congenital insensitivity to pain and anhidrosis. There's a chance that this revelation might have been the very moment that she fell in love with Nate and decided to go against the original plan. Later on at Nate's place, she reveals that she engages in self-harm and also shows him her stomach, covered with cutting scars. She goes on to explain that there are things about people that they prefer to keep from the world, and all they really wish to do is to reveal those things to the world. Something that makes Nate feel a lot more comfortable. By the end, we get to see that Nate is put on house arrest for a short period of time, even though he'd killed 2 individuals, because he had saved the life of an officer, and some other things that proved he was a good guy. However, Sherry, on the other hand, is made to go through a full sentencing for her involvement in the bank heist, along with other possible crimes. So Nate pays her a visit in the prison, and he shows her the tattoo on his body, which finishes the narrative that he started with the tattoos. So yeah, the two are happy and share a piece of the pie in the prison visitation room, celebrating their anniversary, confirming that they are together even after Sherry's betrayal. Nate, being the calculated and typical individual that he is keeping count of the number of days that are left in Sherry's sentencing, and they're waiting to be back together again. Nate takes a bite of the pie, indicating that he's not sticking to his tendency to keep himself away from the world, and is actually taking the risks that Sherry had taught him to take. References and Easter eggs. Novocaine, the film, not the drug, acts like a perfect hit against superhero films, and also proves that it's not important for a star to be associated with the franchise to be able to deliver on such a project. In fact, the film has quite a lot of Easter eggs and references to events from other such franchises, and they sure hit the mark. Nate himself, played by Jack Quaid, feels like someone who's literally an alternate version of Hughie from The Boys. Or maybe it was Hughie, only with a side effect of Compound V giving him CIPA. Apart from that, we have Spider-Man's bestie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jacob Batalon, helping out Nate as Roscoe Dixon. He helps Nate get the name of a guy, and later on comes to rescue him from a house that is riddled with Home Alone booby traps. So yeah, Roscoe was more or less Ned Leeds, only a version that was fitting for the narrative of the film. Going back to the Home Alone house, while it was a perfect excuse to show the level to which Nate's CIPA worked, it almost felt too cartoonish, how much the house was booby-trapped. In fact, Nate himself mentioned how much it feels like the owner of the house was a fan of the Home Alone movies. Last but not least, the gory fight is seen around the end when Nate goes against Sam with his broken hand and bone popping out. While Sam was a completely brutal force, Nate took another shot of the epinephrine to give himself adrenaline and used the popping out bone as a means to stab Sam in the face and kill him. Yeah, that might just be the most brutal rendition of Wolverine we've ever seen, and it becomes very clear that Nate nails the job as this particular rendition of our beloved X-Men character. There are a lot of other such references throughout the film, so maybe the directors will give a clear idea about their references for the film soon. Who is Nathan Caine? Nathan Caine, played by Jack Quaid, is an individual who works at the bank and is quite a typical nerd with a very scheduled and planned behavior. But the one thing that makes him different from others around him is that he suffers from congenital insensitivity to pain and anhidrosis, CIPA. The disease is something that has been used as a plot point in Hollywood before, but in the case of Nate, he doesn't really use it as a power, and manages to shine a light on the fear that it puts the individual suffering from the disease through. It's a rare disease that is a genetic disorder that causes the inability to feel pain and temperature, and even results in a lack of sweating. Nate doesn't eat anything solid so that he can make sure that these things don't go inside and cause some sort of trouble, or else they can result in a form of injury that he isn't able to find out because of a disease. Not only that, he also uses an alarm clock to keep his urine cycle in check, because he might never actually feel like urinating, but keeping it in check makes sure his bladder doesn't end up bursting at some point. In fact, Nate is so particular about his disease that he's aware of all the home remedies to injuries and other such things, in order to be prepared if anything like that happens to him. It's interesting how his entire character could be defined by the disease, and the movie does depend on this disease a lot, and often overdoes the level to which his disease allows him to not feel pain, making it feel as if it's a power instead. But there's more to Nate than his CIPA, and that's where Sherry comes in. Sherry goes on a date with Nate, and there they have a chat about things, only for Sherry to liberate Nate from his fear and make him taste a piece of the pie. This interaction allows Nate to explore a side of himself that he probably never knew, and goes on to use his powers as a means to do right, even though things go really wrong in the process of doing this version of right. Apart from that, Nate is a really good tattoo artist. He uses his own body to make a story out of tattoos that he's been working on since he was a teenager. Hero, villain, or anti-hero. It's interesting to wonder whether Nate's activities or his behavior during the events of the film counts him as a hero or an anti-hero. There are times that he's very planned about his actions, but at the same time, there are moments where he goes absolutely bonkers with the idea of not feeling pain. In fact, he ended up killing some of the individuals who were involved in the robbery, something that he could have avoided very easily instead of just murdering them left and right. So he was a hero to some people he was doing good for, but he was also acting on his own will, and his true intentions were towards saving the girl he loved. Nothing else really mattered, but we can consider that Nate is someone who's just an amateur level hero who has just realized the full potential of their powers, and is using them to go on their first mission to save someone they love. It's inexcusable that he did manage to kill quite a few people in the process. But then, it could act as a lesson for his next outing or mission, or whatever one might call it. Will Nathan Caine return for a sequel? The ending of the film served as a completion of the tale, which is the basic premise of the film, and there's no clarity on whether it will be continued. Maybe Nicholson's Sam survived and he will return to take revenge like he said. But then we also saw that Nate has suffered quite a lot due to his injuries, and he might not indulge into the level of gore that he did the last time we saw him. Maybe this time around, Sherry will team up with him, and the two will deal with things together, allowing Nate to avoid being put back into the hospital with his body full of fractures and other such injuries. Marvelous verdict. Novocaine has a thin plot, but there's a clear attempt at proving that such a film can exist amongst a mass of films that is associated with a particular franchise. I particularly enjoyed the film, even though it felt like at times they overdid the level to which the CIPA works, and it ended up becoming more of a convenient shield for Nate's character to act completely inhumane. Though one has to agree that Jack Quaid proved that he doesn't always require Butcher next to him in order to do some gory action of his own. Maybe this will pave the way for more such opportunities for Jack Quaid, and save him with his post-The Boys plans. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.